an easy way to add to your income. Let us imagine we have $50 in United States of America currency. We could put the money in a savings bank and it would return us approximately $2 a year. We could buy a mortgage certificate and get a return of $3 or even $4 a year. Or we might use the money to buy a share or, depending on the price, several shares of stock in some corporation. Perhaps get dividends and, provided we bought at the right time, make a profit on the transaction. Of course, we could also use the $50 for food, rent, clothing, books, tools, or for other needs or just for pleasure. That is why money is the medium of exchange. It can be used for many things. One of the things money can be used for, which at this writing is not generally known, is as seed money. This means that we can so use money that we reap a harvest of multiplied money. Just how do we plant seed money? What happens when we do plant it? We give it to our church or to a hospital, school or college, or to any of the social service organizations which subsist on donations. Or, if we so wished, we could give it to any needy person, friend, or stranger. Then we follow a specific mental formula derived from the great teacher and proven absolutely true and dependable by such financial giants as the first John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, Julius Rosenwald, Andrew Mellon, and others of great wealth. With perfect safety, without any risk whatever, our seed money so planted will return us tenfold. We will receive back $500. Can't you just see the bankers and the economists holding up their hands in horror at such thought? They will tell you it cannot be done. You are welcome to believe them and lay this booklet aside or give it to someone else. Or you can read it and learn how seed money multiplies, why it multiplies, and by following the principles and methods set forth, prove its truth for yourself. Incidentally, it has often been said, and many times inaptly, the truth shall make you free. The only truth that will make you free is the truth which you prove for yourself. If you cannot prove it in your own experience, if you cannot apply it and demonstrate it in your daily life, whatever it is, truth or not, it will not make you free. Long ago, the prophet Jeremiah knew about seed money. A prophet becomes a prophet because he is inspired. He can, by some means, rise to higher levels than ordinary people, and so more clearly see things and know things for what they are. In our language, that is what Jeremiah said in one of his most exalted states of inspiration. "Prove me now herewith, saith the Infinite, and I will open the gates of granaries of infinite resources, and pour out upon you such blessings, such wealth, such prosperity, and such overflowing abundance of all the good things of life, that you have not the power to receive." Were Jeremiah around today to witness for us, he would tell you that our $50 planted as seed money and properly cultivated would return us $500, and that other seed money sums would return proportional harvests. Here is a story which happened in California 8 or 9 years ago of how a friend of mine proved Jeremiah's promise with typewriters. My friend Sigmund was studying to be a writer. He felt he could progress faster if he had a typewriter. Sigmund asked me to help him demonstrate a typewriter. I agreed, and we started our work that night. Although Sigmund had often been writing at his desk, when his landlady came up to straighten up the apartment the very next morning, she suggested that he go to the basement and get the typewriter some folks who had once lived there had left. She told Sigmund he might have the typewriter. Sigmund phoned that day and gave me an account of what had happened. He said, however, the machine was not new and that he had taken it to have it cleaned and put in working order. The following day, Sigmund packed up the typewriter and asked me to come and see it. I went to his place. I'm quite certain it was not the first typewriter ever manufactured, but it could have been the second. The two of us sat quietly and looked at it. "Does it work?" I asked him. Sigmund laughed. During the next few weeks, the machine needed fixing several times, and Sigmund told me he finally decided to leave it in the repair shop. Soon after, I was called to Phoenix, Arizona, where I spent several months. When I returned to California, I went again to see Sigmund. He asked, "Why don't we try the typewriter demonstration again?" "Let's apply what we learned from the other effort," I suggested. "We know typewriter period is not enough," Sigmund said. "What kind of machine do you want?" Sigmund thought and answered, "It doesn't have to be new, but it should be a late model of a standard make and also be in good working condition." I said, "All right, that's our pattern. A late model standard make in perfect working order." We both went to work on it that night. It was 3 days before I spoke with Sigmund again. He phoned and said he had tried to reach me the day before. I explained I had been away on a business appointment and asked what happened. Sigmund said, "A friend of mine who's been drafted into the Army brought me a typewriter that's only 3 months old. I once lent him my car to drive his mother to Seattle, and he said he didn't know when he's going to need the typewriter again, if ever, and he wanted me to have it." I asked, "What kind of condition is it in?" "Perfect," was Sigmund's answer. I said, "Fine." Sigmund said, "That's not all. You remember me telling about my friends who live across the street? The ones you mowed the lawn for when the man had his ankle broken?" I asked. "The same. When I came back from the store this afternoon, Mary, she's the wife, called me over. They are going back east and have more than they can haul in their car. They bought a typewriter a couple of years ago when they tried out the mail order business at home, but the business didn't prosper, and they gave me the machine. Mary said they had been watching me write in longhand at my window, and they wanted me to have it. I couldn't refuse it, so I brought it home with me." I said, "Great. Is it in good condition too?" Sigmund said it was in perfect condition. Then I pointed out to him that we had demonstrated 2 typewriters. I heard him laughing over the phone. I asked, "What are you laughing about?" He answered, "I have 3. This morning, when I went for the mail, there was an almost new machine in front of my apartment door with a note typewritten, 'This is a gift.' I thought perhaps you sent it." I told him, and I told him truthfully, "Sigmund, not only did I not send it, I know nothing at all about it." Sigmund said, "We'd better turn it off. I don't want to go into the typewriter business." Since those years, Sigmund has used the formula time and again, and is today a prosperous writer and lecturer on the subject. The resources of the infinite are infinite, and every human being has direct access to these resources. Jesus knew about seed money and how to multiply it. He referred to it more than a few times, and once with the loaves and fishes, demonstrated it with great success before a huge throng. In the parable of the talents, Jesus told about 3 men. One had been given 1 talent, another had been given 3 talents, and the third had been given 5 talents. A Roman talent was a denomination of money about equivalent to $500. The man who had the 3 talents doubled his, as did the man who had the 5 talents. Jesus commended them and promised to make each a ruler over 10 cities. In effect, this was saying that the principle they had applied could be used over and over again ad infinitum. That is, was unlimited in its operation. The man who had 1 talent did not multiply it, but instead buried it in the ground. Jesus reprimanded him and said that this 1 talent would be taken from him. Use part of your money as seed money, and you will become prosperous, exceedingly prosperous. Fail to use money as seed money, and you will remain or become needy. Why? Because the needs of life are forever eating up your substance, your earnings, your capital. These must be constantly replenished and extended, renewed, just as you have to forever renew your breath of life. A very small percentage of our population today uses the law of seed money in one form or another. These are the rich, and especially the very rich. Yet perhaps only 1 in 10,000 of these few use the seed money principle consciously, knowing what they are doing. The others have conditioned themselves to follow certain business practices, some of which are not contrary to the law of seed money, and which, part of the time at least, are harmonious with that law. Their financial success is in direct proportion to how closely they follow that law. It should go without saying that success will be greater where one practices the seed money principle consciously and constantly than where one uses it only sporadically and accidentally. A typical business operation in harmony with the law of seed money might be as follows. A man gets an idea for a new product, which will confer benefit upon those who buy it. He takes the idea to a friend. They study it and agree that people will buy it and be pleased with having and using it. They also agree it will require X number of dollars to develop and market the product. They calculate they can sell the item in volume and estimate they can profit to the extent oftentimes the X dollar they must invest in it. So they go into business, follow their agreed course, and make profit. Details will differ in every case, but the foregoing operational procedures are those utilized in almost every successful business venture. The greatest fortune the world has ever seen in private hands was amassed by a man who thoroughly knew, understood, and constantly used the law of seed money. The first John D. Rockefeller, throughout his long life, put his full trust in that law. Whether in his early days when he gave frugally but regularly to his church, or in his middle and later years when his foundations were giving many millions to better the world, Rockefeller always envisioned the many times multiplication of his gifts returning to him. And they did. How they did. Rockefeller knew the truth of the early biblical promise, "All the land thou seest shall be yours." He laid his claim on the infinite and accepted possession. It came to him. The law always works. Rockefeller kept his secret a secret. He taught only his family, and the principle of seed money is still working full-time for them. The world regarded the elder Rockefeller's practice of giving a new dime to everyone he met as a rich man's idiosyncrasy. But to Rockefeller, it was a deeply religious and significant act, each gift another opportunity to multiply his return. Selfish? Greedy? Do not believe it. Here was a man in love with the law, thoroughly and all-absorbingly in love with the law. He embraced the law, and it gave, flooded abundance and wealth and prosperity over him almost beyond human power to count. Van Loon, in his Life of Rembrandt, paints a scene where the bailiffs are moving out the artist's stove and other furniture. In one corner of the hut, his wife is lying on a pallet of straw, dying of consumption. And what is Rembrandt doing? Standing in another corner of the hut, painting. As Rembrandt was in love with painting, the first John D. was in love with making the law of seed money work for him. Many men have walked our earth and left it richer for having been there. But it might well be that this first John D. Rockefeller, once probably the most reviled man of his era, left behind for the human race riches as great as any man who has been on earth. Rockefeller knew the law, and knew it so well that when in his middle 40s, America's finest physicians gave him but 6 months to live, he took the law and started applying it to his health, and as a result outlived all of those good medics from 25 to more than 40 years. Andrew Carnegie, Julius Rosenwald, and Andrew Mellon all knew the law of seed money and practiced it constantly throughout long and extremely prosperous lives. Not only did the gifts of these men enrich the entire world, but they also multiplied their personal wealth, because each of them knew how to claim the multiplied return of their gifts, and constantly did so claim.